conversations. Ghana's independence propelled her into an enigmatic status in Africa. Along with that, the Ghanaian central to the movement was Sajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But is there more to this man than the very serious politician we know him to be? Today I am speaking with a man who has been here, done that, worn many hats, and excelled at them. A chief physician, veteran physician in fact, 50 years in medicine, founder of Rabito Clinic, former chairman of the Convention People's Party, CPP, also and most importantly, Nandom Na, which means Chief of Nandom. His name is Professor Edmund Delle. Prof, welcome to Spotlight.
Oh, thanks for to you and your viewers for this pleasure of having a chat.
And thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you.
I see how we struggled to get in because
yes.
your time was so tight.
Thank
we
you.
are grateful.
Thank you.
And it's important to speak to people like you at this time because there's so much we need to understand
yes.
About our country. Prof, 50 years in medicine. Have there been any highlights throughout your career?
Definitely. It's one of the most... The occupation was given to me by my mother, though an illiterate.
Wow.
My mother, an illiterate who died. When I came back from Italy, where I studied medicine, and I came, and of course, as usual, I wanted her to come and see how she has helped me to arrive at what was. But, of course, she came, and then when she went back to Nandom, she died of pneumonia.
Oh.
It could have been the fact that there was a change of the weather, and then she came, the food, I came with my Italian food, and so she wasn't getting her teaser, she wasn't getting that one. So that was in 1974 when I came to Ghana, and I founded the Rabito Clinic in honor of my professor of dermatology, Padua University, who actually, I was actually to name my clinic after the late Cardinal Delle, who gave me the scholarship to go to Italy. But he declined it and said, leave me, you can name any person, to show the humility of the late Cardinal Delle. So I named it after my professor, Professor Kalojiro Rabito.
Okay.
Yes, who was my professor. And he was the one who actually encouraged me to do dermatology. I got to Italy in 1964. Then, because of this very religious, so I owe my present status to the old lady. Even though an illiterate, she kept telling me, you say you want to be a doctor, and a doctor you should be. Because the CPP at that time promised me to go and do politics, even in the same Russia. But my mother said no.
Doc, how many branches does Rabito have now?
No, we have about 16 branches. We used to have 27.
Okay.
We used to have 27, but because of the accidents I was having, 27.
Yes, I recollect you used to, you were constantly traveling between the branches all around the country.
And the famous plane crash in 2000, when I opened the Volga Clinic. And so because of that.
Just to cut down their
Yes, and of course, it is also because my children have come to take over. And
the young have grown.
They want to make it a business enterprise. So they are seeing it that even though we want to help the poor, but they want first to generate funds.
Yes. Well, you have to be generating funds to help the poor.
So that's why.
Prof, now we have this coronavirus, although the vaccine has now, we've received the first batch of the vaccines. But how do you, as a doctor, keep yourself healthy during this COVID? I know you're a very active man.
Yes.
Have you fine-tuned it, included anything to boost your immune system and avoid infections?
First is the protocols, If you go to my clinic now, most of the patients sit outside and they're separate. And the doctors, we the doctors ourselves, we make sure we respect the protocols. But it is not easy. Because you see, doctor-patient relationship is important. So if you enter there, they cannot even see your face. How are you going to?
It's challenging.
No, but we try. But personally, I'm a vegan. I don't eat animal foods.
Okay.
And I think that has contributed to my health. I take a lot of fruits, and I make sure that I eliminate animal foods because they are more difficult to digest.
Wow.
Whereas with plant food. So I think that has been something, of course, and my exercise too. I try as much as possible.
Nice. Very important.
If I even go and see my steps there, I try to climb them up and down. Climb them up and down. So that I'm giving some. It is wrong for us to tell we the elderly people to rest. I think it is a mistake. Simple rule that anything that you don't use, if you don't use your arms, you cannot.
They become obsolete. Yeah.
So unless the advice of a doctor, I always advise my elderly patients that please still try.
Use your body. Keep your body active. If you don't use your body, you lose your body. That's an interesting.
Yeah. So I think those are the two things that. But we shouldn't panic about this disease because I think that if you get the protocols, you eat good food. After all, our first doctor, the one who brought about medicine, said, make food your medicine and medicine your food to ensure that you know a healthy body.
So the first medicine should be the food.
And it's curious to know that there are observers who say that if you go to the rural areas, that's what they have. Do go and see obese people there in the rural area because they are walking.
Using their bodies.
They are eating the natural foods. Simple. The vegetables they get with we have dagao. They make your dawa and this for you.
Even your green leaves. The presidents were saying we should eat our local foods.
Yes, the local foods are very important, but we seem to scorn them and rather go and take these Maggi cubes and these things. And I'm not saying anything against them, but the fact is that if you see them, they were actually, this was produced by Swiss, the Maggi. And if you taste the Maggi cube, it's so salty. And there is research to say that it's because of consumption of too much salt that gives rise to the hypertension that we have. So people have to be careful. I tell people 2 things you should watch: salt and sugar. So be moderate in them as much as possible.
And these are, both they both spice up food so much. Without salt, the food is not, tasty. Without sugar, the food is not sweet. But this is what you should be watching.
We should be watching. We should be moderation is the word.
Everything in moderation.
Yes.
Doc, how did you get into politics?
As I was, you see the career.
Which came first, medicine before politics, or politics, or they came together?
They came together because I went to government secondary school to study. And in fact, when I was in government secondary school, the teachers were watching me.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, I think my mother's prayer helped me. When it came for me to go to the sixth form, I was good in the arts, French, Latin. There were things which are purely literary things, and I was also the prefect of the library, and that is why you can see I have a lot of books. I'm a library. So so the science master and the arts master then were competing for me.
And 1 minute, let me just read out some of the books I see here. So there are books on politics, medicine, religion. It's interesting. And law.
Yes.
There's also law. Okay. There's several religious texts over here also. Interesting. Please.
So what happened is that I think we were talking. So just to tell you that you see, I'm somebody I like arts and I love medicine. How was I going to choose? And I believe it's my mother's prayer. So the 2 teachers said, throw the coin. I either go for arts or I go for science. Head up was science. Okay. And the other one, so my mother's aim one, so I went to a science class, the sixth form. And so I did botany, zoology, which qualified me to do medicine. So which means the old lady's prayer was going. If I had taken us, even though my nephew, Dr. Jadel, is always telling me that he's sad that I've done medicine because I was actually very good in the arts and I was very talkative.
Okay.
So my nickname
you
is...
You were talkative in class? Huh?
Yes, my name in the school was Mark Anthony. And, you know, and that probably explains why in politics, you know, lawyers and politicians is talk and talk. So of course, he still argues that, you see, you should have been in the art side. But I think I was able to, after doing medicine, I was able to blend myself. So when I came back to Ghana in 1992, when we had the constitution, you know, I was working in Rabito Osu. When the CPP people said, but this man, we are told that he's staunch in Nkrumaism. He was a young pioneer. What is he doing there? So they just came and picked me up, sent me to Kolibu. There was a meeting of these early politicians in the CPP, and they said, look, you have to be, come back, you must come to politics. So I yielded.
But you know, at that time, you were in your prime. Now, you were very astute in politics, you knew your medicine, you were a man going somewhere. And there were several political ideologies to choose from, even in Ghana today. You know, we have different parties. Why did you find Nkrumaism more attractive than the other political ideologies?
But you can see, if you are a young pioneer, how does it live? And this is where I say that if you want to train the youth, put ideology in them when they are young, and they will never depart from it. So it was this ideological training that I had when I was in Tamale Secondary School that made me to remain an Nkrumaist, because
so it was instilled early.
It's early. And of course, it was
cut them young.
You got us young. And so he told us about politics. He told us about Africa. He told us about selfless service to your nation.
When you say he told you, did you ever have an encounter?
Of course, he came, he visited Tamale. Okay. He came there, and you know, as for young pioneer, when Osajifo was there, we were there, so we saw him physically. And sometimes he talked to us, and then we stood and listened, and he was a very simple person. There is an incident, as you are saying, which made me, there was something in that man, that he was so charismatic that even his enemies, those who didn't like him, I remember a particular case when I was young, in the secondary school. I had a Nigerian friend who was teaching us. Then when Nkrumah came into town, that he dressed like a simple man and walked to the man's house and spoke to him. President of the Republic of Ghana, to humble himself to come to him. He said from that day when Nkrumah talked to him, he continued to be an Nkrumaist till he died. The humility that he showed, and the fact that conquer your enemies by going to them, being with them. And those are the things he taught me, that never, if you want to handle an enemy, don't run away from the enemy. Or somebody who talks, let him be in front of you. And then he would then get to know the type of person, and he will change his mind. So this has been something which has kept me going. And
did you ever work very closely with him?
Of course. You can't, as a young pioneer, not directly. But the people who were handling the young pioneers, you know, we used to come here for meetings, and one of them was Elliot. Elliot, who used to stay at the where my in-laws were, the Sidari. So of course, indirectly, he was any message that Nkrumah sent to we, the young people, passed through him. But he used to address us. He would sit there and then talk to us.
What's the most significant memory you have of Nkrumah?
In fact, if you ask me, his love of country and of Africa. Because any time he talked, you could see the passion in him. Is that there are two fundamental things, and it stands there: freedom and justice. So how will you not, as a young man, imbibe this? So years will pass, And you're selfless. He taught a selfless service to your nation and to mankind. To your nation and to mankind. So you imagine that he gives you a wide vision of the world. So Africa, not Africa alone, but the world at large. So it wasn't surprising that in his quest to bring peace in the world, he had his problem. The coup came. And then, so as young men, this remain in you. And that is why we talk about the sayings of a great man makes you sip into his. So there are little things about him that you can't forget. Even on your dying bed, you remember those things. So I think his humane nature, Nkrumah's humane nature. And then he taught us that people make a circle to exclude me, but I make a circle to include them. So you always, the idea of getting everybody on board, whether they don't love you or they love you, put them. So it's something instilled in our blood. Those of us.
And yet there were people trying to take him out.
But he said it. Definitely, he said. A comrade, and he used to call us comrades, you know. There are people who are going to make a circle to exclude me. But I will make a circle to include them. So you know how to handle those who don't agree with you. That means don't be worried. They will exclude you, but you will include them. So this persistence, the patience to be able to get people to work with you. And
anything else?
Of course. We watch him. He goes to the seaside to be on his own, to pray like a simple person. And then, of course, the only thing was that he did it. There are certain things he could. But you say Nkrumah, that's why he called them the veranda boys. He believed in going to the ordinary people and being with them. And that was his famous Chinese phrase, go to the people, sit with them, listen to them, and then learn from them. And start from where they have reached and carry them. How can you not believe that this man was a man with a vision and with a mission, independent of what they could say anything against him? And it has carried us out now. And that is why
Prof, you say he used to go to the beach, the seaside, to pray.
Yes.
So he was a religious man.
Of course. And let me tell you, when the late Cardinal Minter met him at this place, people say Nkrumah wasn't a Christian or this one. When I was a young pioneer, I used to write on Osajifo, non-denominational Christian and a Marxist socialist. I used to put it on when I was there. So he was a Christian. And the late Cardinal, in his books, you even see, he went to visit Kwame Nkrumah in the castle. And this question came to Kwame Nkrumah. He said, oh, we are hearing that you are not religious, you are this one. And then he laughed. Do you remember my name? I'm Francis Nkrumah. And he said, once a Catholic, always a Catholic.
We always keep that Francis out. But
yes, but I say once a Catholic, always a Catholic. I'm a Catholic myself, but it doesn't mean that I cannot be an Nkrumaism. Because once a Catholic, always a Catholic. You will never let your religious views be swallowed by political inclination.
Did he have any hobbies? We know he used to go to the sea to pray, but did he have any hobbies apart from politics and prayer and other
yes,
things
Nkrumah, you know, if you see those who know him and who were with them, like Salifu Dagati, our mother of sea people who is still alive. Nkrumah, we played tennis and do all these things with his friends, golf and those. So he had, and then of course, and also don't forget that his greatest hobby was reading. Nkrumah would devour any text that came into his mind, and that is why we say that among the politicians, he has his books. Because if you go to Tanzania and some of these universities, they have made a course on Nkrumaism. Nkrumah, what he means. So Ghanaians may not take, but if you go to some Eastern countries, and even to Nigeria and those places, there are universities now in the world who use as their Nkrumaism. What was it about?
What does it mean to you, the Nkrumaism?
Me, as far as I'm concerned, it was something, he looked at the world, and he looked at the way the world was going. He said, look, let us try to do it in a way that the African experience should not be thrown away. We should get it and let it be part of our development, so that when we are developing, we don't depend only on what the Westerners have told us. The colonial, and that is why he has written his famous book, Africa Must Unite, trying to tell us why we should also respect ourselves. If you ask me one word about him, I will tell you that his respect for human dignity. And that's why we are now talking about human rights and so forth. But Nkrumah propounded it. Why did he say that we prepare independence with danger than servitude in tranquility? So it means dignity as a person. Why should we leave these people? And so that is why he tried to write conscientism, colonial thing, and these were some of these things which made Nkrumah to be overthrown. And it's interesting that he's overthrown. He was going to solve problems there when this thing happened. And I remember I was then a student.
Don't you think that caused him to focus time he should have spent on Ghana on other countries?
Well, of course, his criticizers said that Nkrumah was a good politician, but he was more an Africanist, or this one, than a Ghanaian. But
I think most people feel that, Ghana, we still have problems. We're trying to, lift ourselves out of that situation. And instead of focusing on ourselves, we're focusing time and resource on other countries.
No, but that is what we are saying, that people do things to exclude him, but he does things to include them. So what is the use of our independence if we are brothers and sisters in Africa, we don't come together? Are we not suffering because of that? In fact, Nyerere came to the church and spoke to us at Christ the King, where I service every morning. And he told us that Nkrumah was right. He was wrong. They didn't understand his aim. They thought he was somebody who wanted just fame. And then, but in the end, they realized that what he fought for is more relevant today than tomorrow. If you see Boah in his book, Adu Boah in the Professor, Abdul Wahab, read it carefully. He said, Nkrumah, as years go by, he will be greater than
he used to be.
And then why did he win that millennium when he won that among Mandela, all this? But Nkrumah won it. And it was by popular vote. People voted for him. So definitely, Ghanaians may complain that it was if he had concentrated, and his famous thing. If I had known that Ghanaians wanted milk and sugar, then I would have bought that for him. I didn't know that they want. Look at our Akusumbo Dam. Akusumbo. Look at even our Job 600, where they used to say that it was prestigious. Are we not now using it? And we even think it's not enough. So the criticism of Nkrumah, if like everybody, we all have criticism. But if you look at the vision that he had, it was prophetic. Now what will happen to Africa with the danger? Then you understand why we had all these coups and we had these things. But still, he said he prefers that than servitude in tranquility.
Since he was driven strongly by liberation and human decency, what does the entire independence mean to you? Now we're in the 64th independence celebration.
Yes.
What does the independence of the country mean to you?
For me, in a single word, he said freedom and justice. It is better. Look, me, I always tell people, if you are put in a cage, even in a golden cage, will you be happy in that golden cage? Is that what you wanted us to be? So that's why he said, I prefer independence with danger than servitude in tranquility. Let us struggle on our own. Let our young people know that some people struggled on their own. So I don't buy the idea that Nkrumah spent all his time. Of course, if you
do you think we're free today? Are we independent?
we are independent to make our mistakes. Of course, he made it clear that there is new colonialism, which is happening today, because he preferred that the African is capable of managing his own affairs. But don't you see, going around Africa, we are coming back to the same thing. We are bringing foreigners, taking over our economy and doing a lot of things. Are we not really proving that what he predicted is coming back? We don't trust even our own people. We always trust foreigners. And that is what, we are not saying you shouldn't have contact with other people, but let your rock be your home. You see, you put your foot on your home, but you look wide and see. You can get some ideas from other people, but start with your culture. What do we do in Ghana? And I'm happy these discourses are coming about homosexuality and these things I don't want in the African. Okay. He believed in a vision of being black. I'm a skin specialist, and I'm particularly moved by the differences in color. Why are we black? Why are some people white?
Prof, you mentioned homosexuality. You know, it's a big subject these days. There's been
lesbianism.
There's been LGBTQ plus movement. There's a lot of conversation around their rights, the legalization. Do you think this is something that should be legalized in Ghana?
That's why I'm talking about. Besides human rights, we also have cultural rights.
Traditional.
Yes, cultural rights. So, are we going to copy what others are doing? Much as we respect private things you do, but to legalize it and to say that it is right, I don't think so. I'm not in favor. And it is cultural. You see...
But you said Nkrumah was very committed to human decency, human rights.
Yes.
You're also a human rights person. But they have their human rights too, don't they?
Oh, no. You see, but that's why I say you have human rights and cultural rights too.
Okay.
Your culture. You see, you have your cultural rights, which should be reflected. That is why the Africans too have written their human rights relating to Africa, respecting group rights, respecting this one. And it is by our religion. I'm a stand Catholic, so definitely they will not allow me to marry more than one wife. But if culturally, you see, some people are opposing that they came and took away our way of life and gave us their way of life, which may not be suitable for our thing. So even human dignity, for me, I summarize human rights as human dignity. But you can't force what you believe yourself to the whole society. This is the only problem. We say that we want your rights. If you want your rights, which are private rights, handle them in your